How you doing, YouTube? Now with Massive Beer Reviews, back with yet another review. A little bit of funky beer. A little bit of a farm beer, as they would put it on the label here, in the form of Soul Artisan Ales. It is their Floating World. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a Soul review. They used to kind of do beers around me at a local brewery, and they kind of moved in a different part of Pennsylvania. Not too far away from me, but I don't get down that way that often. But they have a society, and for 1 year they did a society, and this was one of the beers, one of the last ones they actually did for the society, and a friend of mine gave it to me, and he said, "Hey man, you want to review this?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" Because I love reviewing beer. So here we go. As far as what it says on this beer, it says brewed and bottled by Soul Artisan Ales. It's their Floating World. It's a farm beer conditioned on citrus zest, orange blossom honey, and orange juice. 9% alcohol by volume, and that'd be that. Label-wise, it's cool. I've always liked Soul labels. You know, some of them have been misses, but for most parts, I've dug their kind of art design, or whoever the people down there hire to do that. Pretty good at what they do. So let's give this beer a whirl, see what she's got. Give her a pour. Now, you're talking about a farm beer. They spelled it with an I-B-I-E-R, so you know it's real, because instead of being beer, it's I-E-R. So that makes it better. Give this a pour, see what she's got. So we're talking about a farm beer. I mean, it's Saison. 9% rustic Saison, kind of, you know, more high ABV Saison. That's what I'm assuming here. Farmhouse kind of ale. Gravity fine creaminess. Super tight compact bubbles. Just off white. Not khaki-esque, but getting close. It's got a soft taste to it. Definitely looks the part of kind of hazy, kind of farm beer, kind of Saison, kind of whatnot kind of beer. Is that all that's in this? So we're talking about citrus, zest, orange juice, and orange blossom honey. So, wow. Gave that a little whirl, and that head kind of got a little bit bigger on me, so don't want to do that too much. Let's see if we can get a nose on her. Probably snorting a little foam on this one, so. Not really getting much there. Getting a subtle malt vibe. A little bit of like an orangey kind of honey thing, a sweet orangeness. Nothing too crazy, nothing super sweet, more of a sweeter orange, not necessarily a sweet, very sweet kind of orangeness. Definitely leans more kind of just, you know, farmhouse kind of, not funky, but spicy. A little bit of pepperiness, a little bit of spiciness, a little bit of that kind of orange. It's not necessarily bitter nor sweet. Kind of floating in the middle there somewhere. There you go. Floating World. Yeah. It smells like a kind of bit more robust of a farmhouse ale. Let's dive in, see what she's got. Cheers. There's like this acidity to it. It's somewhere outside of the beer. I don't think it's a beer kind of acidity to it, but it's like giving me like instant heartburn. It's sweet in a weird way. It's sweet not from the beer. It's sweet from that orange juice or some kind of added sweetness to it. There's an aggressive carbonation to it. You can see even when I swirl it around, that head just wants to kind of explode off of it. There's an aggressive carbonation. There's that kind of added sweetness from that orange juice, which is just makes it not taste like a beer. And then you have this kind of acidity that's like, it's almost alkaline in kind of its acidity. It doesn't belong in a beer. It's just kind of out of place. Everything in it's out of place, actually. It tastes like bits and pieces of a beer. As opposed to a cohesive beer. Yeah, because you get like a subtle malt base to it. You get a little bit of kind of a pithy orange zesty thing going on. That's very, very minimal in the bottom. And you get that kind of aggressive carbonation that's tied to that kind of acidity thing. Man, it's giving me crazy heartburn. It's not a sour beer either. That's where it's kind of like throwing me for a loop. Is that it has this kind of heartburn-inducing acidity that is somewhere outside of a sour realm. And that in of itself kind of bugs me out. It's a very... I want to say interesting because it's not piquing my interest. It's more kind of, I don't know what's in it kind of thing. That acidity thing really bothers me. Like I said, it's more of an alkaline kind of acidity. That's why I'm getting that kind of big kind of heartburn because it's not like a sour acidity to it. Ooh, it makes me want to burp just to get rid of it. Yeah, the carbonation's kind of, oddly enough, when I did review Soul beers, I always kind of knocked it for the lack of carbonation. This one goes in the opposite direction, has way too much carbonation going on. It just tastes like, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense at all. The beer is separate from that OJ, and then OJ separate from that alkaline kind of acidity thing. Yeah, it just, you know, not in a good way. I mean, sometimes beers are interesting, they kind of boggle my mind, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on in them, and that in and of itself is kind of a fun journey to go on. This is kind of the opposite, to where I'm like, I'm not really sure what's going on, but I just know I don't like it, kind of thing. Yeah, the acidity will just, every sip I take, just gets more prevalent. The point where if I do not take a heartburn pill immediately after doing this, then I'm going to be in big trouble. So, yeah, just kind of disjointed. Not a horrible, worst beer I've ever had in my life. A lot of people have gone into beers, in this whole thing. I mean, locally we have a bit of a kind of sordid past when it comes to the Soul stuff. And that's one of the reasons I stopped reviewing their beers. Is that... you know, there's a lot of people here that he did very, very dirty. The brewer and the owner. So that's why I stopped doing the beer reviews. I just didn't really want to promote him as a brewery. But my buddy was like, hey man, review this. And he honestly, he gave it to me for the sole purpose of shitting on it. But I'm not going to shit on a beer if I'm not, you know, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you the straight dope. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to tell you a beer sucks if it sucks. I don't think this is the worst beer ever made. A lot of people have told me it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad. That acidity thing and the way everything is kind of singular pieces just doesn't work for me. The more I drink it, the more I don't like it. But it's not overtly offensive. It's just... It's like saying, you know, how's Patton Oswalt does it perfectly. He tells this joke about George Lucas and how about, you know, Star Wars, rehashing the Star Wars. It's older bit, but rehashing the Star Wars with the old shitty Star Wars, not the awesome new ones that JJ has been coming out with. Talk about the ones that when George Lucas brought it back for 1, 2, and 3, and he said, you know, he made a bad joke about like, oh, do you like Angelina Jolie? Well, here's John Voight's ballsack about like, you know what I mean? I love the things I love. I don't care where they come from, and this tastes like a lot of bits and pieces. And that he goes, hey, do you like ice cream? Here's some milk and some rock salt, because that's kind of how you would make ice cream. And that's how this beer tastes to me. It tastes like malt. It tastes like zestiness. It tastes like some kind of acidity. I don't know where it's coming from. It tastes like pieces of a beer, E-E-R, B-E-E-R, and not a beer, or I-E-R, depending on where you're coming from. It just tastes disjointed. It doesn't taste cohesive. It doesn't taste like it had a lot of thought or effort put into it. And that's kind of where this beer kind of leads me. You know, it makes sense. It does. It does make sense. You know what I mean? The person that made this beer, you know what I mean, made some pretty good, like, you know what I mean, hop thoughty kind of IPA stuff when he first started it out. But he's been on a very slow, very long, very arduous decline as far as the beers that he's been making. at his place. And actually, that's the funniest part about it, is that this doesn't taste like it was brewed by a brewer. You know what I mean? It tastes like it was pieced together, and it all kind of comes full circle. The person who made this beer, wanted to start a brewery, and he bought all those brewing equipment and opened a brewery bar before opening his brewery, and along that time started making beers at other breweries to kind of keep that bar afloat. He put the cart before the horse. He ended up opening a tap room before opening the brewery, and that's been going on for about a year or so now, and it got to the point where even now he's basically just sold off his whole brewery, and now he's just going to make beer at other breweries and blend them together. He's trying to ride the whole blendery craze. I mean, there's people who fucking are killing it on the blendery front. The referend down in Jersey, a couple other people, that's what they want to do. They want to be blenders as opposed to brewers. Was the person who made this brewery is kind of trying to claw his way and kind of retain his kind of place in the beer world, and it's going downhill fast. And it kind of shows in this beer. It shows that somebody understands the processes, but doesn't care enough to put them together, and just threw something together to appease and to fulfill what he needed to do to not be, for the lack of a better word, on the hook for whatever. And it just shows. I mean, like I said, it's not the most offensive beer I've ever had in the world, but I definitely would not seek it out. If this is a showcase of what soul has coming out of the chute from its blendery, because, again, they sold off their brewery, so they do not have a brewery anymore. They're just going to be blending beers. This is a showcase. This came out only a couple months ago, so this is kind of like their piece de resistance. This is what we're going to be doing going forward with our blendery. It's not good. You know what I mean? It just shows a lack of passion. It shows a lack of understanding, and it just shows a lack of ethics and morals. You know what I mean? As far as when it comes to beer and what beer should be from people that love beer. That's what it is. People love beer. People love it. Not love to consume it, love to make it, love to talk about it the whole nine. What you taste here is kind of like paint by numbers. I want to be a farmhouse brewer as opposed to actually understanding the process. So that's kind of where it kind of loses everything. There's no soul to it. Oddly enough, there's zero soul to it. It's a bunch of ingredients thrown together for nothing other than to fulfill a quota. And unfortunately, that seems to be the case, with this and some of the other things coming out of there. So there you go. Let's talk about it. It's one of the better farmhouse saison beers that I've had as late. No, it's one of the worst. Is it offensive? That's what I talked about. No, I don't think it's offensive, but it's definitely not a good beer. The bits and pieces of it just don't make sense. In that acidity, I have not taken a sip for. You can go back and rewind. It's been several minutes, and this heartburn is getting worse and worse. So this is kind of caustic stuff right here. Value and availability. This is part of their society, but I know he ended up doing a lot of people dirty there as far as what he was supposed to, or what he said he would do outside of his minimum requirements. So while it wasn't in the end a crazily expensive beer, probably ended up being around $15 worth of cash monetary money, it definitely has a lot of blood diamond-y kind of vibes to it, so it's definitely kind of overpriced for what it is. And availability, you don't want to seek it out, so that's not a big deal. And leave you with, if you like what we like this. Sadomasochism. Knowing where breweries lose their passion. That's probably the best thing I could say about this. If you really want to understand when a brewery kind of just is in it for, Instagram fame, or in it for popularity reasons, this is a good one to check out, because it would be like, okay, this is a beer that probably looks good in a picture, and if you throw the correct light on it, or a filter, if you will, it looks the part. But it lacks the part. You know what I mean? A lot of people, a lot of brewers out there, not even brewers, chefs, anything. You take a profession that's artistic laden, but also has the science to it. There's a lot of people that fake their way through the world, and just kind of, float above it. There you go. And not really understand the core value of why this thing or that thing or whatever thing they're into has a beautifulness to it. And just see it as a means to an end of their own ego, for the lack of a better word. And that's kind of where this one lands. So definitely not a beer that's worth seeking out, and it's definitely a showcase of what they've produced. So if you're looking to patronize somebody who has the worst intentions, then it's worth checking out. Other than that, it's your life. You get to live it whichever way you want. So, there you go. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed our review. If you didn't, anywhere in between, down there, words and stuff. If you'd like to talk to me about it, like I said, down there. But if you want to reach me out in other places, Massive Beers, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped. If you want to see and hear me, this podcast, you see those. In the podcast world, type in Beer Massive, MASSIF.com. Go check me out there. And there you go. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a much more tasty and morally ethical beer than this one right now. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.